Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of October 13th through the 19th. And Venus is going to be the main star of the week. It's going to go into Libra actually today, and it's going to get involved in a couple different, a big grand aspect pattern that contains a couple different parts to it that I'll get into. And also, the sun is going to get involved with the Jupiter Chiron square. So, those are the main things I'm going to talk about. Just a little bit of business first. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that I do on YouTube every week. And if you like what you see and you have a YouTube account, I would really like you to become a follower. And when you do, don't forget to turn your notifications on, or you will miss when the blog comes up. They will notify you if you turn that on. And remember, it's been a podcast for long before it was a YouTube channel, so it's still available on podcast to an exact audio copy of the same video you see on YouTube. And that way it frees you up to be able to listen to the podcasts when times when you can't actually have your eyes on it, like maybe driving to work or something. I know our time is so valuable these days, so that's another way you can check the blog out. Also, if you have an Instagram page, Astrological Winds channel does too. If you become a follower there, it'll show up in your newsreel. Sometimes I do put some extra comments and stuff on there. I know I haven't been too regular about that, but once in a while I do. And then you can always find it on the website, www.astrologicalwinds.com, and there's a blogs tab, and you hit that. Not only this week's blog, but there's weeks and weeks of blogs going back. You can check monthlies. The annual one is up there too, so you can do that. Plus, that lists all my professional services on the menu there. And I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years, trained for 7 years to be that. I would love to do your chart, or someone else that's looking for some chart work. All kinds of descriptions of the different things I do there. The costs are there. I can work on payment plan too if you need to do that. So yeah, just check that out, and I'll get into more details with that later. Now remember, the blog is free. So what I ask people to do to pay it forward is to please pass the link along to somebody else. And I know some of you guys have done that multiple times. If you found, if you can think of someone new that you can do that with, that'd be great. And remember also, if you're not super familiar with astrology terms, what you really want to get out of the blog is the gist of the energy this week so that you can work with it. Don't worry so much about getting, why on the terms and getting caught up with that and missing the points of what's really going on this week. So yeah, so I just wanted to, mention, you know, um, a couple things from last week actually that I thought was really interesting with a quote from the International Monetary Fund, that we've gotten, we went through a lot of changes with Uranus going through Taurus and resources, a lot of shocking things. And Uranus is going to retrograde back into Taurus for a few months still before it goes back into Gemini next year. And just this quote is really interesting from the International Monetary Fund this week. His quote was, "Buckle up. Uncertainty is the new normal, and it is here to stay." So that to me, what a way to like just end the whole 7 years of Uranus going through Taurus, and the way it's affected resources. And, I did notice the gold was up to $4,000 an ounce, and that the dollar is getting very weak too, and so like it seems like, and then also a lot of youthful rebellion going on right now because of poverty, going on in other places in the world. And you may not see it in our news or on our newsreel, but there is a lot of stuff going on. So I really just wanted to bring that up, once again, once in a while, when I have a little couple extra minutes, show how some of the astrology has really played out, and so that's really just an amazing quote there. I just really think that sums up the age. But anyway, let's get to this week. Venus, the main star this week, And the first thing I do want to mention on Monday, today is the day Pluto goes direct. The exact same day that Pluto went direct last year, except this time it's about at 1 degree 22 minutes of Aquarius. So it's not going back into Capricorn anymore. We are on the long 20-year ride of Pluto going through Aquarius. That's what the annual blog, which is still on the website, is mainly about. So I'm not going to go back into it now. All I'm going to tell you guys, and even with Pluto going direct, I talked about what that meant on the monthly blog of October. So I'm not going to go back into that right now either. But I will say, Pluto will be direct the next 7 months. So, that's the period that we have going on for forward motion in, and it'll be strictly in Aquarius. And we are just going to see, the Aquarian age is really going to come in now. It's full speed ahead on all that stuff. So check those other two blogs out, especially the annual one on Pluto and Aquarius, because that's the biggest change of the year, really. One of the biggest changes of the year. Neptune going into Aries too, Saturn going to Aries. Really important blog. If you missed that one, it's up there on the website still. And like I said, I do mention what Pluto going direct means in the monthly from a couple weeks back. So you can go back and check that out if it's really important to you. So Venus into Libra on Monday, and immediately opposite Neptune right here. You can see Venus down here at Libra and Neptune up here, and there's that opposition, that hard red line there, right? So Venus into Libra, the goddess loves going into Libra. That is one of the two signs that she rules. And this is the one where she's extroverted, where she wants to, the relating part comes up. Relationship is so important to Libra. This is the first sign in the zodiac on the relationship side of the zodiac, which I actually mentioned a week or so ago. So this, and with Venus and Libra, a lot of times she's looking for that one-on-one connection, that opening of a one-on-one connection, that opening that many times brings love, brings romance, brings partnership, right? That's what Libra is like, what Libra and Venus are like, and where does that lead to? The next sign is Scorpio, right? Where that initial connection in Libra that happens usually through, communication, air sign, right? Then it takes, if the connection is made, it gets deeper. That's when it goes into Scorpio, and the connection gets deeper and more emotional and things like that. But this is a time of the year where we get really extroverted, right? We want to get out there. We want to have some fun. We want to be seen. We show off our friendly side. We're charming. We're graceful. We don't want to be alone now. And so, like, we do all these things that we, will attract other people to us instead, and therefore, when we're like that, we're well received. We're well liked by the people who are, the groups that we belong to, because we're, really, putting ourselves out there in this way where we want to be accepted. We want to be open. We want to make connection. So that's what Venus and Libra is all about. But also Venus and Libra is about artistic energy too, creative energy. A lot of creative sparks happen, the initiating of ideas, and how you can play with color and form and shape and styles. That's why Libra, rules like fashion and the finer things. So whatever we're into, it doesn't matter whether you're a billionaire or you're like down like somewhere like in lower parts of energy in the world, but like whatever you're into on a level of like fine things, that's where this Venus will show up, and like and your taste is just good. You have like really good taste for whatever things you're into. So it refines our taste for the finer things in life. Whatever things that we like, that we're into, it refines those things, and we really enjoy the finer things in life when we have this Venus and Libra. But this is a time like where that really will show off. Even it'll combine those two factors too. Like not only trying to attract people, but like the finer things in life means we dress really well. We make ourselves up good. We make ourselves attractive. We're graceful. We're charming. And the one other thing I will mention about Venus and Libra, she is definitely one of these ones where like we really the work that we do is more like on the air side and on connecting with people. So it's like we're into finer work too. We're not so much into doing physical stuff. We're more into like making connection as part of our work, So that's like, we're not really ready to dig deep is my point yet. It's a place where we're like, oh, okay, this is where, we want to make that connection and things. So then immediately the opposition to Neptune comes in. And Neptune and Venus are both about love. They're both the lower and higher octave of love, or what I mean, like Venus is love between people, in the physical world. It's conditional many times, right? People's love for one another is conditional for the most part. So that's what kind of makes it a little bit lower. Whereas Neptune is more of a spiritual love. It's the more of the love of compassion. It's unconditional. It's tolerant. It accepts differences, right? So when the two of them come together, they blend those two things together. It can be really beautiful. It can put us in this very idealistic frame of mind about love. But there's a big danger when it's in opposition, right? That danger is that we, get so idealistic about our relationships and so receptive and so open about them that we're actually being unrealistic about them. Okay. And, we're trying to put people on a pedestal that they actually don't really fit on. But inside, we're trying to put them on that. So we have to be very careful about living kind of like in a fantasy world in relationships. And what the sun opposite Neptune will probably do is, or Venus, I'm sorry, Venus opposite Neptune will probably do is start to show us some of the cracks where we're not being realistic and where we're kind of glossing it over and pretending that, that it's not a big deal, right? When it's not lining up. So we have to be very careful about literally overgiving ourselves, of being, almost not of not having clear boundaries even, right? And therefore what happens is people can take advantage of us. They can actually start to like delude us. They can mislead us because they can see that we're making like these things in our own mind that are like excuses of the ideal of what's going on and pretending that what is in front of us is not going on, or making kind of some kind of excuse about like how that's okay. Because you have to be very careful with this about being of not having clear enough boundaries. And I will especially say that especially in new relationships, like new relationships are the ones where this can really, be rooted in something like that. Older relationships actually are the ones where I think this energy can play out really beautifully, because you can really blend your energies together. It can have like a soulmate, soul union kind of connection, and you can really like, start to like have this like more profound, deeper, romantic, compassionate, understanding relationship for one another. And it can be really beautiful. But I think that works better in relationships that are already established with loved ones with this one. But it's definitely a time too where just like I said, in any new relationship, just to have discretion, just to be realistic, to check in with yourself on it. But it's also a time where we do have a lot of compassion, and we may actually even work on a bigger level with people, like, trying to help people on like charitable type levels, bigger levels, things like that. So also, like I said, brings a lot of inspiration, a lot of imagination. So like it can create some um sparks, creative sparks that you can take from there. So very interesting energy. And then right away it also locks into a grand trine in air, trining Uranus and Pluto on Tuesday, which basically means that we have this grand aspect pattern. You can see it right here, called a kite. You see the shape of the kite? Because you got the opposition, that's kind of like the stick in the kite, right? And then the Uranus and Neptune are also both sextiling. I mean, Uranus and Pluto are both sextiling Neptune right now. So you get the top part of the kite and then the grand trine at the bottom. And a kite is an interesting aspect because the opposition is what's really driving the energy, what I just said here. And then the grand trine and the sextiles kind of react to that energy. So, what we have going on is this beautiful grand trine on Tuesday that's exact in air among Uranus and Pluto and Venus. And so this is one of these ones where some really beneficial changes can flow into relationships very easily right now and transform them for really good. And when I look at this energy too, and the way I think about it, I'm like, what would be really good with this? The way to start this energy, if you want a really good reaction out of this energy, is to do something different, something exciting, something out of the ordinary with one of your loved ones. If you're looking to stimulate a relationship, to like bring it to another level, to get it deeper, to transform it, to bring it into change, to bring it into harmony, right? That is what I would recommend to do early this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like try to do something exciting and different, something unusual. This can be with one of your friends, it can be with your family, it can be with your lovers. It's great for your lovers, obviously, because Venus is there. But, something like that will stimulate a lot of energy. Having a different experience together, like even going and seeing some kind of new kind of art or entertainment together, something that's going to be exciting to do together, and it's going to intensify your living, your experiences together, because that what in effect that will do is bring it into a deeper level. And not only that, once you do that, it'll bring in some amazing insights, like not only in yourself, where you can see yourself reflected in the other, but like into the others too. And therefore, you can bring that out into every relationship too. So it's a great, great opportunity. And see, the thing is too, up here, the sextile parts of the kite are all about opportunity for, meeting ideals. And once again, changes are what can do that. Like, so it's really interesting. And if even you don't have anything like that going on, if you don't have some kind of tight relationship with family or friends or a lover right now that you're trying to bring transformation and change in, and want a deeper connection and want more excitement and stuff like that, this also can spark a lot of creative insights again, a lot of brilliant ideas. So, like, once again, like taking this energy of the inspiration that you might get from the Neptune, and wow, getting these amazing insights from it, and then creating some kind of transformative art, or exposing yourself to some kind of transformative art or creative work or entertainment can really spark the mind. It would really, like, I mean, especially in air, like the creative ideas will just be flowing and flowing and flowing. So that can be a really amazing energy with all this Venus and with the kite this week. Now Thursday and Friday is and I didn't put it on the board here, but Thursday and Friday we have the sun locking in to a a cardinal, actually, a cardinal T square with Jupiter and Chiron. So if you'll remember, I've talked about Jupiter and Chiron a number of times in the past year. They've been in a square, kind of going in and out of a square in the last year for the most part, and it's a lot of it to me has been a lot of the angst, a lot of the pain that people are experiencing in the past year when their beliefs and their philosophies and their values are being challenged by the way the world is today, and it's very painful. I mean, Jupiter is a societal planet, right? And right now society, and it has been for years now, really, since, for me, like really going all the way back to when Pluto went into Capricorn in the 2000s, like has been at two very extreme different ways of looking at things. And this is like for both sides, it can be very painful when you're seeing what you believe as your philosophies, your values, and everything are not aligning well. And so when the sun gets in there, that's when people are going to get really personal about this. They're going to go in fighting for what they believe in. And so this week could be a very pushy week. And I think, when you look at a lot of the things that are going on right now, even in the United States, new administration kind of pushing a lot of things the last 9 months, you can see that people and courts and governors and other people are actually, it seems like they're coming to an apex point where the pain, sun opposite Chiron, that's being brought to them by the other is becoming so unbearable that they're ready to act and do something about it. Sun square Jupiter, they're ready to take a chance. They're ready to risk themselves. They're ready to take some kind of gain. So this can really get people into a fighting mode about what they believe is right and really want to push that onto others. And it really just feels like right now there's so much stuff flying around, right? It's really hard for any of us to get a handle on anything that's going on. It's like the overstimulation of all this is draining our resources, it's draining our time, it's draining our energy, it's draining our money. We're getting hurt by like all this stuff that's going on. And right now this could stimulate a very courageous attitude, but it's still going to be very difficult to do much about it because there's so much stuff flying around. It's really difficult to get any kind of discipline or control over the situation, and it can definitely dissolve into battles with other people over basically who's right and who's wrong. Does this sound like our world? It can be very difficult to find common ground with this. People are very self righteous, they're arrogant, they're preachy. And, it just continues a vicious cycle of pain for everybody. That's what everyone's experiencing. So it's very interesting. The open end of the T square is actually Capricorn. And that's where you look for your answer. And that's showing that, we need to bring some structure and form back in order to harness this energy and make it useful. And the best place to start, the sun opposite Chiron, is to see both sides of an issue, to stand down, to start to find some common ground to work from. And then Jupiter is saying, stay open minded, stay tolerant, you know, be accepting of where other people are at. Don't be so defensive about it. And maybe from there, that's where the toehold can be created by Capricorn to start to create some form or structure with. I will say this, in the United States, we're all one country still, right? So we need to realize, our country was founded on like people having differences. So this is like really fitting of that energy of the disagreements. But once again, you're starting to see cracks in it. The sun has people standing up all of a sudden. They're like, time out, enough is enough. From the common person right up to political leaders who all of a sudden are like, wait a minute, enough is enough, right? So very interesting how this will play out this week too, especially with Pluto going direct too, because that's when people are going to start pushing their power out again too. And then I do want to mention too, before we go, next Sunday, Mercury is conjunct Mars in Virgo, right down here, and it's trining the North Node. And so when Mercury and Mars get together, usually that's a pretty ornery mess. We get very egotistically involved in what our beliefs are, and therefore we're very defensive about them and very aggressive about pushing them too. So once again, this could really blend in with some of this energy if people are not consciously aware. That's why we're doing the blog, right? So we're consciously aware of this stuff. We can get really, really defensive and angry and irritated with anyone. This is very competitive energy. And then in Virgo, it's very judgmental too. So it's going to bring back a lot of this stuff. And when the Mercury and Mars are together, it's a very sharp and clear mind too. Like we know what we believe in and we're really clear about it. So we're ready for that competitive argument. We're ready for a fight. But it also gives tremendous intellectual capacity if we can control that, if we can discipline that. But it's really easy to get irritated with anyone who bothers you from even the smallest thing that they may do differently than you, because everybody thinks they're right under this. So people try to control this. And even if you can control that energy in you, don't think that anybody else around you might be able to. You may find yourself in a battle anyway because other people are going to project their irritation and anger and their belief systems out onto you, right? So it's really interesting, but I think the trine to the North Node can be helpful here because this shows that there are people out there that you can form teams with that have the same ideas as you and that you can create a team that maybe around even the competitive energy of wanting to do something and wanting to emerge victorious in doing it, but like have a shared success with that team. And if nothing else, you can maybe find some people who are agreeable to your ideas and thoughts and therefore getting to some stimulating conversations and connections rather than arguments and battles with people who don't believe in what you believe in. So it's going to be a tricky week. I do I obviously love the kite. I think this is just incredible. If, for a relationship or any relationships that you want to deepen and connect and get in a better flow with, this is a great week for it. But I think, there's going to be societal issues and belief issues with different people that are also going to play out a lot this week. And it can get heavy, it can get deep, it could get intense at times. But that's what I got for this week. So next week, we do have a very potent, very, very potent new moon because it's at the 29th degree of Libra in the critical degree. So definitely be talking about that. The sun going into Scorpio next week. And that means, of course, it's going to connect with all those outer planets. And, looks like Mercury's pretty busy next week too. So that's what I'll be talking about next week. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free video blog that I do on YouTube every week. I'd really like you to be a follower. If you're not yet, please become one. And I really need you to pass the link along to somebody else right now for the service I just offered. Also, remember it's available on podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcast. It's also available on Instagram. You can become a follower of Astrological Winds channel. And please check my website out. That's where you can find the link to this blog and all of them. That's where you can find my professional services pages. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years. I've done so many charts over the years. I would love to do yours. It's something that never leaves you. Make the investment in yourself. And if you have that done by a professional, which is much different than getting a computer readout or looking stuff up in a book or having a friend who dabbles tell you, professional astrologer is going to give you a lot more than that. myself or anybody else who's a professional and knows what they're doing. And every year you should get a predictive too. It's like getting your own weather report like I do for the week here, but it's just for you. Once again, worthy of the investment for yourself. And there's all kinds of other stuff I do too, relationship charts, relocation work, um, children's charts, election charts. So check the website. Also, if you have a group, you're looking for a lecture, a workshop, mini readings, classes, things like that, I'm available for that. If you're a student, there's some beginning podcast classes. I'm always looking for live students too to possibly have a live weekly class or possibly maybe 2 or 3 times a month. You can see how we work that out. So, like any of those things, please check the website out. You can directly contact me at matthure823@gmail.com. There is a link on the site too. Also, if you'd like to give a currency donation to the blog, it actually does cost me some money to put this thing together. My Venmo is at Matthew, 2T's hyphen Lawton, Lauten. Cash App is $Matthew Lawton, all one word, 2T's Lauten. No amount is too small. Even a few bucks helps out. Appreciate all you guys. I will see you all next week, and we will look at that critical new moon in Libra coming up. All right. See you then.